Here's our reading for today. The theme for June 2021 is the soul's calling. The topic for today is the soul's call to freedom. Ernest Holmes reminds us of our inherent freedom to create in this passage. We are to see that Spirit creates all things by the power of its own word, and that we are spiritual beings. We are to hear that inner voice of truth, which is ever proclaiming the freedom of all life, the eternal unity of God with man. And modern-day mystic Michael Singer offers this wisdom. The prerequisite to true freedom is to decide that you do not want to suffer anymore. You must decide that you want to enjoy your life and that there is no reason for stress, inner pain, or fear. Oh, my friends, please join me in speaking this word of commitment to ourselves. I consciously and confidently live my own truth. And now it's my honor to reintroduce Dr. Reverend Kathleen Johnson.
Freedom, freedom, freedom. This is the time where we're really focused on that beautiful principle of the divine. You know, we had just had Juneteenth, and now 4th of July is coming up, and it is a great time to reflect on this principle called freedom and where freedom really exists. And so it is with great joy that I'm going to share with you a beautiful vision. So join me in this vision. This is the CSL Global Vision. Another piece of it, I've shared little pieces of it each week. And this one says this, so join me in this. We see a world in which each and every person lives in alignment with his or her highest spiritual principle, emphasizing unity with God and connection with each other, a world in which individually and collectively, we are called to a higher state of consciousness and action. A higher state of consciousness and action. So the path to a higher state of consciousness, that's the question. So what is that? And Carl Jung helps us kind of tune into that when he says, who looks outside dreams. We look outside of ourselves for our good. Who looks inside awakens, awakening to higher states of consciousness. To this, Ernest Holmes adds, as the inner light dawns, it delivers the outer life from bondage. As the inner light dawns, it delivers the outer life from bondage. When the soul knows freedom, the law will free, and this is the universal law, the creative mind, that law will free the body, and the outer life will express health, happiness, and success. This is that principle of as within, so without, or the kingdom of heaven is within. Everything comes from within out. So the soul's call to freedom then, and we're culminating this month with the remembrance that it's all about awakening to the inner light of the divine that is within us. And this inner light is identical with the very life of the all that is. God, Spirit, universal intelligence, whatever you want to call it, the unified field of all potentiality and possibility is what the physicists call it, the quantum physicists. Whatever we call this presence, we're awakening to the fullness of it, what it means to realize that we and it are one and the same, and yet all uniquely individualized. And when we awaken, here's the beautiful thing that happens because we're interconnected. When we awaken, it's like this light just shines out all across the planet, lifting everybody else up. Breathe that in, just feel that. And so as a spiritual community, this is what we've been dedicated to for quite a long time, haven't we? This is not like new news, but it's really important to remind ourselves of the great value of doing our spiritual practice each day. Meditation, affirmative prayer, which we call spiritual mind treatment, visioning, spiritual study, which you have an opportunity to do with me next month. All of these are ways in which we become more aware of and awaken to the life that we are. You know, there's a story about Plato's cave. How many of you have heard this before? Right. It's the story of a bunch of people who are in a cave and facing the fire, and they're seeing shadows being cast upon the wall in front of them. And they've decided that this is what reality is. Meanwhile, the reality is outside the cave. And so that's basically what's going on with us. We're seeing the projections, the manifestations of the one life, and yet the light that casts the shadows, the light that's behind all of that, is the true source of all that is. We are that light, individualized. What we are looking with is what we have been seeking. So no doubt, when I think about Harriet Tubman, no doubt the light, the inner light, was what she was awakened to, that inner light. Because think about what she did. Not only did she escape from being enslaved to the North, but she was determined year after year after year to go back into the South and to bring more and more and more of the enslaved people to freedom. That is someone who is totally aware of her inner light and her inner power to create and to support others in experiencing this thing called freedom. So today I want to talk about actually three different things. The freedom in uncertainty, the freedom in being yourself, and the freedom to enjoy life. Set my stuff out there a little bit better. So the freedom of uncertainty. Deepak Chopra says uncertainty is the fertile ground of pure creativity and freedom. Uncertainty is the fertile ground of pure creativity and freedom. He says uncertainty means stepping into the unknown every moment. The unknown is the field of all possibilities, an opportunity to create something new. This means being awakened to who we are, the inner light that has the capacities to create the ever new. And so we can step in to the uncertainty of life with a great deal of faith that we have within us the capacities to meet whatever challenges before us and to create the life that we desire. It's a powerful place to be. Think about that. So we place ourselves, though, in inner bondage if we are looking outside of ourselves for freedom and security. Anytime we look outside of ourselves, we are, for our good of any kind, we are placing ourselves in bondage. So freedom and security then come from a very strange place to the average person. It comes from living in uncertainty and living in it with great confidence that all we need is provided for us. It's a powerful place to be. So that's why I think it's so important to live in the question, what is the divine highest idea of my life? The question, who am I in truth? What am I in truth? To live in those questions and really deepen into that awareness, because what we are is amazing superluminescence, light, brilliance, the creative genius of the universe, individualized. And so there's a beautiful affirmation that Thomas Troward, my favorite quote from Thomas Troward, it's actually a beautiful affirmation that harnesses who we are in truth and what our capacities are. So listen to this and own it for yourself. My mind is a center of divine operation. The divine operation is always for expansion and fuller expression. And this means the production of something beyond what has gone before, something entirely new, not included in past experience, though proceeding out of it by an orderly sequence of growth. Therefore, since the divine cannot change its inherent nature, it must operate in the same manner in me. Consequently, in my own special world, in which I am the center, it, meaning the divine in me, will move forward to produce new conditions, listen to this, always in advance of any that had gone before. Is that a powerful affirmation? And I'm happy to share that with everybody on Facebook when I get home. It is to me, it is something to really contemplate and to integrate into us. This is our design, to create something that is always in advance of what has come before. This is what progress is, really on a deeper level, understanding what progress is and what our capacities are. And this isn't just for a few people here on planet Earth. This is true about every single one of us. Jesus said, "Ye are gods, children of the Most High," reminding us of our amazing capacities. Even things that I do, Jesus said, even greater things you shall do. Great master teacher showing us who we are in truth. The entire quote? Okay. All right. So be ready to deepen into this. My mind is a center of divine operation. The divine operation is always for expansion and fuller expression. And this means the production of something beyond what has gone before, something entirely new, not included in past experience, though proceeding out of it by an orderly sequence of growth. Therefore, since the divine cannot change its inherent nature, it must operate in the same manner in me. Consequently, in my own special world in which I am the center, it will move me forward to produce new conditions, always in advance of anything that has gone before. Did it sink in better that time? Yeah, powerful. So stay with me, grounded in uncertainty. I find the freedom to create anything I choose. Yeah. Okay, so that was freedom in uncertainty. The next one is freedom in being yourself. So in the mid-1400s, in Italy, sculptors were commissioned to create a series of 12 large Old Testament figures for a cathedral in Florence. And in 1464, the artist Agostino di Duccio was commissioned to sculpt David. And many of you maybe who've been to Italy or even just seen it online have seen the beautiful sculpture of David. I actually sent one to Dan last night. This is something I decided on kind of late last night. So I don't know if you can find it, Dan. So a giant block of marble was brought all the way from Tuscany to Florence in order to have this for the sculptor to work on it. Well, within a short period of time, the sculptor apparently was fired. And so then they went on to hire another one by the name of Antonio Rossellino. So he was commissioned. He worked on it another 2 years, and then he was fired. And so this block of stone, which was partially done, which they called the giant because it was just huge, sat around for another 25 years. And so at some point, the authorities decided they were ready to invest in it again. So they consulted Leonardo da Vinci and other great people of the time to find the divine perfect person to do this, and they found the 26-year-old Michelangelo. And he had a lot of confidence, and he had so many gifts and talents. He was a creative genius. And so they enlisted him, and he completed it in 3 years. One of the powerful things that he said that I think is why it's just such it's not only a beautiful work of art, but this is what he said about it. He said that he considered sculpting to be the highest form of art because it mimicked divine creation. He said that he worked under the premise that David was already in the block of stone, and that all he needed to do was to chisel away that which was not David. Some of you have heard this before, because I see a lot of heads shaking. Think about what that means for each one of us. The divine perfection is already within us. We're whole, perfect, and complete. All we need to do is chisel away or release that which is not who we are in truth. You know, as we've moved through life, we've accumulated a lot of false ideas of who we are, just because of our culture, because of this, our 5 senses that have fooled us into thinking that we're all separate. You know, whatever it's been, it's an opportunity to release the old paradigm of who we are. This isn't only happening on an individual level, it's happening on a collective level. And as the new physics, the quantum physics, has presented itself over time, there's a clear awareness of those who really understand the meaning of what came forward on that, is that there's one unified field. There's no separation. And the fullness of that presence is concentrated in every spot, the fullness of the divine in each one. This is what we teach, and this is what we've been teaching in our teachings for quite some time, and what the mystics have taught. And yet there is still a resistance on the part of a lot of humanity, including a lot of scientists. There's the resistance to this idea of complete and total unity and the creative power of the mind, the part that consciousness plays in creation, and the idea that we are forever, just by observing, we are collapsing waves into particles. It's pretty amazing. It's mind-blowing to make the shift and realize that what we call objective reality is really are really projections, creations of the divine within each and every one of us. It's taking place. And the physicists, the ones who are really contemplative, like John Wheeler is one that I've been reading about quite a bit in this book called The Quantum Revelation. John Wheeler, a great physicist who not only contributed a lot to quantum physics with his own experiments, but also was very philosophical in looking at what does all of this really mean. And so what we've been talking about today, this thing called freedom, really relates to that shift from seeing everything as separate to realizing that everything is a unified whole, that we're this projector, we are the light, and we are seeing through the filter of our 5 senses that give us this experience of life, which can be pretty fun, actually, and a fun journey. But that's what it is, and really who we are in truth are not these bodies. These bodies are instruments, or they're expressions, are projections of the light that we are. It's pretty amazing. Dan and I were contemplating last night about how we might be looking at the same situation and how each of us has our own filters and sees things from our own perspective. We all do that. And Michelle and I were talking about, we're looking at these beautiful flowers and going, wow, the blue is just so vibrant. But are we seeing blue the same way? Are we seeing the same thing, even though we're sharing this experience? Life is an amazing, wondrous thing. And so I'm hoping that I'm blowing your minds a little bit. And because we have a really powerful part to play in our own freedom and the freedom of humanity as we all really tune into what's really going on here in this thing called life. And to realize, as the physicists, these great physicists say, this is a participatory universe. We are constantly creating by what we're observing, what we're thinking about. We're constantly creating. And we can choose the direction of our creation. So the best way to deal with uncertainty is to actively and consciously create. Set our intentions, what it is, and vision, catch a higher vision. So, the freedom in being yourself. You know, each of us are these beautiful, glorious, wonderful, unique, talented, amazing individualizations of the divine, and we are already free. We're already free. We're free to choose. And so, Holmes said, if God created you after his own nature, and there is nothing else he could have made you out of, then the thing that you are after is already here within you. The only things that stand between you and it are the accumulated thoughts, beliefs, and emotions of all the ages, and they can be removed. They can be removed. You know, the Spanish cellist Pablo Casals reminded us of how important it is to teach this to our children and to teach it to each other. I'm going to say really to teach it to each other. He recommended that we should say to our children, do you know what you are? You are a marvel. You are unique. In all the world, there is no other child exactly like you. In the millions of years that have passed, there has never been another child like you. You have the capacity for anything. You are a marvel. So I'd like you just to turn to somebody next to you, around you, and if it's 3 people getting together, that's fine, but just connect with somebody, with a group. And I'd like you to say to that person, do you know who you are? You are a marvel. You are unique. There's no one in the world exactly like you. You have the capacity for anything. Yes, you are a marvel. Breathe that in and take it in and own it. You know, as we authentically express ourselves, our own uniqueness, as we do that, and as we encourage others to do the same, and as we accept the uniqueness and differences of people around us, we are contributing to co-creating this world, heaven on earth, a world that works for all. And, you know, it's Pride Month, and it's a great opportunity to, if you have any people in your lives who are from the LGBTQ community, to let them know what a marvel they are and how greatly you appreciate and love them. Because each one of us are uniquely and beautifully expressed the way we are, and we came into this world to be authentic and to be who we are and to not hide who we are. You know, it's taken me a long time to get to the point where I'm just owning my own uniqueness. I don't have to be like anybody else, and it's just so freeing. I mean, I've even let my natural hair color come in. It is so freeing. It is so freeing. I said to Dan, we were riding our bikes, I said, and we took the helmet off, I said, it's so freeing to know that I don't have any roots showing. This is the real me. Oh. Thank you. I'm totally rooted. This is the real, yeah, right. The roots are all the way out. Okay, so freedom to be ourselves. The last one is the freedom to enjoy life. Suffering is a sign of bondage, personal bondage. And when we suffer, we're looking at the shadows in the cave. We're not looking at the truth of who we are. And we're not exercising our power of choice. So remember that the next time you find yourself caught, and we all do that from time to time, get caught into some type of personal suffering, remember that just remind yourself, I'm looking at the shadows on the cave. I need to turn around and look at the light, actually turn within, and go to the inner light and shift my perspective to begin to see as God sees, see as the divine sees within me. Celebration is a powerful spiritual practice. Did you know celebration is a spiritual practice? Isn't that awesome? It is. It's actually in our foundations class. It's the very last spiritual practice. It's a spiritual practice that expresses the joy that we are. And I was thinking about our volunteer of the month, and it's Brett, and he's not here today, unfortunately, but we have the volunteer of the month. It's a great way to honor the uniqueness, the contribution that people are offering our community. So Brett, wherever you are, thank you. We're going to see him we'll see him this afternoon. We'll let him know. But so Volunteer of the Month is a way that we celebrate who we are, our uniqueness. And another opportunity, this is the season for humane service. We can celebrate our birthdays, or whatever celebrations that we have, by asking all those, instead of giving us presents, to contribute to a worthy cause. Facebook, I understand, has created a button so that you can ask people to make charitable contributions for your birthday, and that function has raised over $1 billion for charities. Over $1 billion for charities. That's powerful. Powerful way to very easily and effortlessly put the Seasons for Humane Service into practice. So, in conclusion, let's let freedom ring, right? And we know that freedom begins within. That freedom is embracing uncertainty. It's just the way it is, but we have all the capacities and all the creativity that we could possibly ever desire to meet the challenges. It's a reminder to express our unique gifts and talents, to be who we are authentically, and to honor other people in their own uniqueness and celebrate them. And it's an opportunity to celebrate life and joy, and to give of ourselves in humane service to the planet. So, my friends, let's just celebrate that, and let's all just go, yes! And so it is. Namaste. And so now